Oh, I need this one and this one. I need to buy these two things. No, put it back. We will not buy these things. You don't need them. Let's go. Does this story resonate with you? Or are there any other situations in your life where your child acts out as a big emotional wave that you don't know how to manage? Tantrums, behaving in a mean, rude, aggressive way, yelling, hitting, kicking, you name it, or any situation where you simply don't understand your child, or any other situation where he behaves or says something that may look illogical, irresponsible, unreasonable to you. What I mention over here is pretty much a daily reality of thousands and millions of parents in this world. There's something that we start considering as a norm, and this comes and goes. But there's one big but. Have you ever wondered what your child tells himself after each event? Have you ever wondered what your child might be concluding after all those situations? Have you ever wondered how your child sees and hears what you do and what you say as a parent? And what is the long-term impact of that? Because of our modern and hectic lifestyle, lots of parents don't take a pause and look at things through the eyes of their kids. And that's understandable. Modern parents are doing their best to manage the pressure of work, life, house, kids, and many other things. But in the meantime, this is what's happening inside the kids and their brains. I had a big plan, and it was so important for me. I wanted to write a letter for my friend, but nobody asked me what I wanted to do with that envelope and the clips. Nobody wanted to understand me and hear about it. What I want and what I have to say is not important. I am not important to my parents. If you want to prevent your child from concluding such things, or if you would like to have a better connection with your kids when you're living your hectic life, or when you would like to have easy and quick tools to implement that solve your immediate short-term struggles, and at the same time, the same tools will allow you to develop long-term child's resiliency, then these 7 parenting tools to develop emotional literacy are for you. Hi, I'm Galina. I'm the founder of Parent Up, and I'm a parenting coach, and I will be your instructor in this course. So let's get started. What is emotional literacy? It's the ability of a person to identify simple and complex emotions in themselves and other people. In other words, it's 2 things in one: self-awareness and empathy. How does it work for kids? Self-awareness is the ability of a child to listen to the body sensations and connect them to the emotions that they might be experiencing in that moment, naming those emotions and feelings, and processing and expressing those emotions in a conscious and constructive, productive manner. The empathy is the ability of a child to read other people's emotions, see and notice the other person's tone of voice, facial expressions, body language, and decode the messages that they're sending through these communication channels. And of course, it's the ability of a child to respond on other person's emotions productively. Emotional literacy is like learning a language, the language of emotions. We don't have this by default when we are born. It's a learned skill. It's a learned behavior that makes a tremendous difference in the lives of adults and children. Emotions are a huge part of our lives. A lot of the time, our actions and behaviors are largely determined by how we feel. We adults know, unfortunately, that a lot of our behaviors are driven by emotions. Not we drive our emotions, but emotions drive us, which leads to us making poor choices and unconscious decisions that we in the end regret. You have a chance, an opportunity to change this reality for your kids by teaching them about emotional literacy in their early years. The earlier you start, the better it will be. I am inviting every parent to invest their time and efforts in learning how to teach your kids emotional literacy. Connect and redirect. This framework was created by Dan Siegel. And when I start working with parents, I explain to them that they should look at this framework as a parenting ABC, something they should learn as a must and apply with their kids full-heartedly. You see, when we become parents and when we start facing our first challenges with kids, we often don't have strategies on how to handle them. When we're in the heat of the moment and when we see our kids having hard times, what we usually do is we default to something that we have learned from our parents, which in fact could be outdated and harmful for our kids long term. Connect and redirect is one of those tools and strategies that proves to be effective even in the most challenging situations and the cases with your kids, whether those could be tantrums or with situations when your kids are taken by massive emotional waves. And this framework is based on the basic understanding of how the brain works and how it operates inside of our kids. Let me introduce you to the brain. Why? Because it is important for every parent to understand what happens inside the child's brain. The brain has two sides, left hemisphere and right hemisphere. Both help people to process everything that happens around them and with them, but from different angles. The left brain processes by giving people words, logic, and order. The right brain processes by applying a big picture view and adding an emotional context to experiences. You want your children to be able to integrate both modes of processing as much as possible. The left brain is all about logic, reasoning, organizing, planning. It's detailed-oriented, focuses on processing and creating structure. The right brain operates with emotions. It's able to sense information from the body, it puts things into the context and sees the whole picture. It's creative and uses imagination. It's empathetic. When parenting a child, you don't want her to grow with only left brain perspective or only right brain perspective. One produces a person with emotional coldness and the other one with emotional storms. You might have heard other people saying something about others. Oh, he's so left brain-sided. Oh, she is so right brain-sided. What they want to say is that he is so emotionally cold or she's so emotionally explosive. Neither of those things by itself is great long-term. When you raise a child, you want to make sure that both parts of the brain are balanced, they're integrated, and they form what we call a whole brain. The beauty of Dan Siegel's framework is in the fact that it helps the parents to reach the two goals, short-term and long-term. The short-term goal is give the child this calm and quiet state of their mind. And the second one is teaching them how to develop an integrated brain. In this framework, we look at the brain structure, left and the right brain, and we apply two steps. Step number 1, connect to the right brain. And step number 2, redirect with the left brain. Why this tool is so important? This tool explains and teaches parents the reasons why we are so different compared to our kids and why we from time to time clash. The parents, we spend most of our time in the left part of our brain. We want to have logic, structure, and explanations. But our kids, especially little ones, between the age of 0 to 6, they spend most of their time in the right part of their brain, which is all about the emotions. As they grow older, they start traveling a little bit more frequently and spend more time in the left part of the brain. But they still spend entire time in the emotions world. So when our kids have hard times, when they're in the tantrum, we typically approach them from the logical part of the brain, but the kids don't hear us because they speak a totally different language, the language of emotions. And what this tool, Connect and Redirect, does, it helps the parents to start speaking the same language with their kids and connect to them effectively. Step 1. Connect. This step starts from connecting to the right side of the child's brain. When they're having a hard time and when they're in the middle of the tantrum, they are in the right side of the brain. And you, as a parent, what we usually do, we approach them from the left side of the brain. But they don't hear us because we do not speak the same language at that moment. And the step 1, connecting to the right part of the brain, is allowing you to start speaking the language of emotions. How do you do that? Is by acknowledging what your child feels in this moment. There is one very simple and very effective way of how to acknowledge the emotions of your kids. Do you know Siri? Siri that you have on your iPhone. Be her. What does it mean? So for example, if you miss your turn, what does she usually tell you? She doesn't tell you, hey, what are you doing? You just missed your turn. She will tell you something in a very calm, empathetic, non-judgmental, non-critical voice. If possible, make a U-turn. So in order for you to acknowledge the child's feelings and emotions, be Siri, be her, non-judgmental, and just state what you see without any judgments or criticism. For example, I see you want to take a turn on this bike. You ask for a turn, but the other kid is not in the mood to share. It sounds like you're feeling very upset. Or you just built this huge Duplo tower and your sister knocked it off. It sounds like you're feeling very angry. I would like to make a little note over here. When your kids are little, it is a very good idea for you to really pronounce and spell it out for them what emotion they might be feeling in the moment, because it allows them to create their vocabulary and awareness. But as your kids grow older, they might start getting frustrated about the fact that you name the feelings for them. What you should do instead here is actually ask them a question. What do you feel? Or what feeling are you feeling in this moment? For example, I will use the same story as the Duplo. You just built a Duplo tower and your sister knocked it off. What are you feeling right now? This way, the children will give you the name of their feeling because they already have a larger vocabulary to say what they feel. Let me give you a bunch of other tips on how to connect to your child effectively. One of my favorite sentences or phrases on how to connect to the kids is this. It looks like you're having hard times. Would you like to take a deep breath? Or would you like mama to give you a hug? There is a couple of other things that I would like to mention here. Our communication consists of 3 elements. 10% is about the words, about what we say. 30% is about our tone of voice. It's about how we say what we say. And the rest, 60%, is about our body language and the facial expressions. So when you connect to your child, don't only think about what you say, but also think about how you say what you say. And there are a couple of particular elements that I would like you to become aware and change something perhaps in the way how you connect to your kids. First of all, pause. Stop everything you're doing at that moment and allow yourself and the child to be together. Be patient. If you're in the middle of doing something in the kitchen, just put it down, come over and be with your kids. Physical touch. Give your child a hug. Gently grab his hands or arms. Facial expressions. Make sure that your face is not tensed or looks like it's fighting face. It needs to be tender and relaxed. Eye contact. This one is very important. Look into the eyes on the same level as your child. We very often look down at them because we're tall, right? We're parents. What I suggest to the parents is go on the same level as your kids. Just go on your knees and look straight into their eyes. Ask your child to look into your eyes too. Tone of the voice. Make sure that it is soothing and it's very understanding and kind. Empathy. Make your child feel understood and felt. Show your child that you really mean it to connect with him. Now that we have covered the first step of connecting redirect tool, let's go straight into the next step, redirect. Step 2, redirect. This part of the process is all about shifting your child from the right part of the brain, emotional brain, into the left side of the brain that is responsible for logic and problem solving. And you as a parent can play a very important part in helping your child to learn how to look at every single experiences as opportunities to develop and integrate the brain. Do not rush. If you see your child is still in the right part of the brain when they're still emotional, do not push them to go into the redirect phase. Give them the time and the space. Usually, you can see it in an instant when they shift from the right to the left side of the brain. It's like a switch. It just goes like this. You can see it in their face and their body. It relaxes, it becomes less tense, their face and their eyes got brighter. You can really see and feel it when they are ready. Sometimes, if you're not sure, you can even ask them this question: are you ready to talk about what has just happened? Look at this step as everything about learning. This is the right time to ask powerful questions that will trigger 3 things inside of your kids. The first one is reflect. Allow your child to reflect on what they have just done, on their behavior, how it impacted others, and how the child feels about the situation himself. You can ask simple questions like this: how do you feel about this situation? How do you think other people who were involved might be feeling right now? And what do you think would happen to other people as a result of your actions? You want to make sure that while you're having this reflection moment, your child doesn't end up feeling like you're saying no to the child. You want to make sure that you're saying no to the behavior. What I mean by this is pay attention to whether you're using adjectives that will be focused on the child identity or on the verbs or the child's behaviors. Simply don't tell your child you're naughty, you're mean, you're rude. You want to say something different. What you did was mean. You were behaving in the naughty way. Your words were rude. Second thing is redo. Ask your child what they can do to redo the situation and try it out together. You can just say, let's redo it again. To give you an example here, my son occasionally might be passing by and just dropping a tissue on the floor instead of into the garbage bin. What I would usually say: I see the tissue on the floor. Could you please redo it again? Every time you have a conversation with your child, ask yourself a simple question. What is my child concluding after us having this conversation? What is the child telling himself after he walks away after we had this conversation? The reason why you would like to ask yourself those questions is because you want to ensure that your child forms the right meanings and healthy beliefs that will be driving him through the course of his life. Here are a few things that you can ask your child over here. What is the learning opportunity from this situation? What did you just learn and take away for yourself from here? Or what would you like to do differently next time the same thing happens to you? If you don't know how to handle any of the issues below, connect and redirect can become something for you to consider. Tantrums, child doesn't obey, sibling rivalry, aggressive and violent attitude, complaining and whining, shy and lack of confidence, biting, hitting, kicking, interrupting, bossiness, the child is not listening, yelling, being annoying and obnoxious, mean, rude or disrespectful, and so on. It is a long list that this tool can tackle. The breadth and the depth of its application is enormous. If I were to summarize all of these situations in one sentence, I could say that this tool is useful for any occasion when your child is taken over by the big emotional wave. One thing that you need to train yourself as a parent is start taking perspectives. Looking at the situation not only through the lens of your own eyes, but also through the lens and the eyes of your child. For example, the behavior that we see, the child is crying. What we might be seeing and thinking, what he gets upset about, what he says doesn't make any sense, He's old enough to act rationally and hold a logical conversation. I don't get it. Why is he like this? What the child's really trying to communicate to you. I'm having a hard time and I need help. So any situation when you don't know how to support your child when he's having a hard time, you know that connect first is your way to go and then redirect. Feel the feeling. This is another very powerful tool that you can add into your emotional mastery toolkit. Do you want to just feel the feeling, or do you want to talk about what can be done? This is the way how you ask this question to your kids. Every feeling and every emotion is a signal. Just like your car that has the signals on the dashboards. When something is not right, something is happening inside of your car, it runs out of petrol or oil, what do you usually do? You just pull over to the petrol station or to the repair shop and get it fixed. You attend to the needs of the car to continue the journey. That's exactly the same purpose our feelings and emotions have in our lives. And it is so important for you as a parent to teach your kids to read those messages, understand them, and act upon them. There are typically two types of messages that our feelings and emotions bring to us. Message number one is to allow yourself to feel this feeling until it dissipates. I call this feel the feeling. And the second type of messages, where they call for action, when something needs to be done or something needs to be followed up after you experience this emotion. For example, anger. When you feel mad about something or somebody, it means that your boundaries have been violated and you need to restore them successfully. I have a very little story to share with you to demonstrate how this tool works in practice. A couple of months ago, my family decided to make a short weekend getaway. We were supposed to pick my son from school and be very efficient, changing our clothes, packing our suitcase, and going to the airport. But I made a big mistake. I forgot to tell him about that. When he was back home, he saw us moving very fast and he was very confused because he couldn't understand why and what was going on. So he started having a massive tantrum, shouting and screaming and crying, telling us, "I don't want to go!" And I was taken over by massive fear of missing the plane. And I thought, oh my God, that's the last thing that I want in the planet. I had to take a deep breath, allow myself to experience this feeling of fear, and then connect to my child. And I asked him at that moment, do you want to just feel the feeling, or do you want to talk about what we can do? And he said, no, I just want to feel the feeling. I said, that's great. We've got a taxi waiting for us downstairs. How about I will pick you up and I will carry you. You will continue feeling your feeling, and when we're in the taxi, when you're ready to talk, we can talk. He nodded through the tears and said, yes, I would like to feel the feeling. So we went downstairs, got into the car. Luckily, we never missed the plane and we had a beautiful weekend together as a family. If I were to summarize all the options and scenarios where you might end up using this tool, it'll probably be about getting your child to cooperate. To get the child to do something he might not necessarily want to do, but something that needs to be done anyway. Especially, this tool will be handy when you are under a time pressure. In order to understand how to use this tool, you as a parent need to learn a simple fact that not every emotion needs an action. Some are here just to be felt. Too often, we rush to rescue our kids, fix or solve things for them, save them from the feeling of sadness, anger, guilt, and etc. By doing this, we rob them from the opportunity to learn how to be resilient. So if you worry that you might be helping too much, again, this tool might be exactly for you. And last but not the least, if you're a parent who wants to stay cool when you're not feeling cool, Feel the Feeling tool could be just what you need. Ask yourself a question: what do I feel and what do I want to do with this feeling? To feel it or do something? Feeling-o-meter, Or how big is your emotion? Why is this tool so important? You see, in our life, one of the emotions that we experience very often is either anger or madness. And when we do feel those emotions, there are two possible scenarios how the situation might develop. One is where the emotion and the feeling completely takes control over us. And second scenario is where we take control of that emotion. In the first scenario, we stop being conscious and present. And we start making poor choices and poor decisions. We start acting and behaving in a way that we will later on regret. With the second scenario, it's completely different. We're aware of what we feel. We're aware the degree, intensity of that feeling. And we can choose what to feel and how to behave in the moment of that emotion. So if you as a parent can teach your kids to understand what they feel and at the same time know the degree of this feeling, you will be able to give them a very powerful tool to use for the rest of their lives. How to use this tool? Most likely you will find that this tool is very useful when it comes to the feelings of anger and madness. You still can use this emotion with very positive feelings like happiness and joy. But something tells me you most likely will be using it with madness and anger. So what you can do is you can teach your kids that there are 3 degrees of feeling this emotion. You can ask them, how big is your emotion? Is it small? Is it medium? Or is it big? And your child will tell in that moment the size of that emotion. If you're very artistic and would like to do something very creative, what you can do is actually create a very huge, giant size feeling-ometer and leave it at home just around so the child can come over and just point out exactly the level and the degree of their emotion. Or you can just download one of our resources from this course, print it out, hang it somewhere in the wall at home, and again, ask your child to show you how big that emotion in the moment. There's something extra that you can teach your kids using this tool. You can explain to them that when the emotion is very small, it's very likely they will be still able to use their talking face, talking voice, and helping words. But when the intensity of the emotion develops and it gets very big, they will most likely opt into choosing their fighting voice and fighting words. So in these kind of situations, you can step in and coach your child. What do you feel? Is that the anger feeling? How big is it? Is it big? Is it small? Is it medium? What can I do right here, right now to make you feel better? What can I as a parent change to make you feel better?
A couple of months ago, my son seriously hurt his leg muscle after sitting on Dad's neck for too long and too uncomfortably. We did a very long stroll in the park. He got very tired, couldn't walk anymore, and asked to be carried on the neck. He had lots of pain in his right leg, and he started limping. He spent whole day in the bed, and he looked very miserable. When we asked him to try and step on his foot, he became very sensitive. He started crying and saying, "No, no, no." I've never seen him like this before, and I felt something big was going on, but I couldn't figure out what it was. I knew I needed to connect and redirect, and perhaps use some of the other emotional literacy tools. It happened to be, how big is your emotion? Here is what happened next. Tim, how much pain do you feel in your leg? A lot. Oh, so much? How much is it? Is it small, medium, or big pain? It is big pain. I see. What do you feel about the pain? I feel scared. So when we ask you to try and walk, you started feeling scared because you're worried that the pain will come back. Is that correct? Yes, and I so don't want to feel the pain, and I'm feeling so scared. I can so understand what you're saying. Do you know how we call this emotion? This is the fear you're feeling. How big is your fear? It's like this big. And he shows with his arms widespread. Oh, and how big is Tim compared to the fear? Tim is like this, very tiny. And he shows, using his small fingers, very small size. Wow, looks like the fear is so much bigger than you are. No wonder that you are feeling scared to try and make steps. Yes, Mom, I'm so scared to even try to walk because I know I will feel the pain. I can so hear and feel you, Tim. When the fear is bigger than you are, it is hard to do anything. He started nodding. He reached out for a very big hug and comfort. You know what? I also feel the fear once in a while. Fear is a very special emotion. It keeps you safe and protected. But it can also limit you from making progress and doing what you want. What do you want to do with your fear? I want my fear to go away, but I don't know how to. Do you know what is one thing that the fear is afraid of? No, what is it? It is action. And it's most scared of what I call baby steps. If you make small baby steps one by one after another, the fear shrinks. Would you like to give it a try? Yes. My son looked very curious and puzzled. He got up and started taking very slow and small steps, holding me very tight. How is your fear doing? Is it still there? Yes, but it's getting smaller. Oh, that is great to hear. Can you show me now how big it is and how big you are compared to the fear? And my son showed that his size was much bigger now and that the fear was getting smaller. His face looked brighter and relieved.
Let's talk about the differences between talking, serious, fighting, voice, and the face. Imagine big, giant stairs with 3 steps. The first step is the talking face and talking voice. The middle step is the serious voice and the serious face. And right at the top, you've got the fighting voice and fighting face. The higher you go in the stairs, the more escalated the situation and your reaction becomes. So let's see step by step what each of those voices and faces mean and how they actually look like in real life. Talking voice is relaxed and quiet. Talking face is smiling with wide open eyes. Serious voice is slow, stretched speech that communicates that your message is important. Serious face has big, wide eyes that communicate what you are saying is important. Fighting voice is loud and abrupt. Fighting face is pinched, mean, and scary. Can you guess from the next examples what kind of voice and face that is?
If you want to start educating your child about the emotions or help him to understand and process them better, but you don't know how to start that conversation, this tool might be an excellent one for you. When you use this tool, you will soon realize one remarkable thing. Often, child's voice and the body language will suggest that they have a massive emotion. But when you ask them, how big is it? You will be surprised to hear that it's not a big one, but medium or even sometimes small. Hence, asking this question is like a conversation starter for all parents when they don't know exactly how to begin that conversation about the feelings. Let me break down some of the ways how you can use this tool. You can use this question to ask about feelings like hunger or hurt. If you want to check in with your child about the hunger, most likely medium and a big hunger will be an indication that they might be heading towards a meltdown and you need to give them the food. Or you can ask how big is your feeling about the fear. I personally love to combine this question with a comparison to how big are you compared to your fear. So you as a parent can get a sense of a scale. Excitement or happiness, depending on child's temperament. They could be showing the excitement differently compared to what the parent might expect. If they get the present, you have an impression they might not be happy about it though they say that they do. You can ask them, how big is your happiness right now? And you might be surprised to hear that they are very happy. Anger or madness. This is where you will probably use this tool a lot. At home, on the playground, with friends, siblings, anybody. This tool is very versatile and has lots of applications.
Let's have a look at our next communication strategy. It sounds like it's very important to you. Could you tell me more? You can use this communication strategy with anybody, not only with your kids. And I will show a little story that will demonstrate what kind of superpowers it has.
We were in the supermarket and my son looked like he was having a lot of fun. He got stuck in front of the shelves full of stationery and he started grabbing all the things, saying that he needs them all. So it looked like he had a very big plan. He grabbed a pack of envelopes, then a pack of paper clips, and was just about to drop them into the shopping basket when my husband intervened and used his very serious voice to say, "No, Timothy, you don't need them." He grabbed them out of his hands and put them back into the shelves. So my son no longer looked happy or excited. On the contrary, he looked very sad, disappointed, and confused. I felt like I needed to step in and save the situation. "Hey, it looks like these envelopes and paper clips are very important for you." "Yes, they are." "I see. Can you tell me what kind of plan you had in mind? What did you want to do with them?" "I wanted to write a letter to my best friend and send it to her by post." "I hear you. It is very important to have envelopes if you want to write somebody a letter. What about the paper clips? What did you want to do with them?" "I haven't figured it out yet, but they all look something I can play school and pretend to be a teacher." "Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. Can I play with you when we are back home?" "Yes, Mom." "Can I make a suggestion?" "Yes, I would love to know." "I think I have seen a box of paper clips in Dad's office, and we might still have some envelopes in the same drawer. Before we buy anything new, shall we check in the drawers? Is that okay with you?" "Yes, let's check home." Timothy put his items back on the shelves and we continued our shopping.
What exactly does this phrase do? Well, it does a couple of things. But before I explain what it does, let me explain you one of the main reasons why parents and kids clash. Because parents are coming from the knowers mindset and the kids are living their lives in the learner's mindset. What is the difference? The parents' knower mindset is based on knowing everything. And our children usually look up to us like the only people in the planet that seem to know everything. The child's learning mindset is very curious. It's about exploring. And our kids look at everything in the world like brand new. They've never seen this before. They are so positive, excited, energized, and intuitive. By design, the knower mindset is very structured. It's very dull, it's full of discipline, and that's exactly why we clash with our kids. And also, by design, the learner mindset of our kids has got no bad intentions. It doesn't have any bad thoughts or meanings or any ideas of manipulation like a lot of parents might suspect their kids have. They don't have it from their learner mindset point of view. So what this tool, the communication tool, does, it actually builds the bridge between the learner mindset and the knower mindset. And you as a parent, you connect to the learner mindset without diminishing and disregarding your child's ideas. So in the story that I've just shared with you before, my husband was the knower mindset. And when I stepped into the story, I was the learner mindset. It's like in the swing. So if you imagine your child is the learner and you are the knower, the moment you apply your knower position, you immediately go to the top of the swing. But you don't want to stay there all the time. What you want is to be on par with your child or allow your child to go up. Because when you are up, you are empowered, you are inspired, you're very positive. But the moment the parent takes the knower mindset, you're actually looking down to your child and you're diminishing him. You don't really want to have this all the time with your children.
If you want to stop policing your kid all the time, if you want to stop saying, no, don't, you can't have it to your child, if you don't know how to react when your child says or does something that looks to you unreasonable, illogical, irrational, and you just don't want to continue dismissing him, if you find it challenging to stay firm and not give in when your child is asking to buy different stuff in the shop, if your kid is complaining and whining and you don't know how to stop it, and if your child is at the stage where he says, I want to do everything by myself, and you don't know how to respond when he wants to do something dangerous, this tool might be an excellent one for you to introduce and use with your kids. What I mentioned above are not the only scenarios where you can apply this tool, but just some suggestions. You'll most likely find some of the other areas where it will work well, because this tool is all about validating your child. A lot of things that look to us parents as normal or small could be giant and massive for our kids, and you don't want to ignore this fact. Take your child's perspective by not dismissing it, by acknowledging that it is important for them, and you're making them feel felt and understood by doing this. This tool is also handy for those parents who find their kids at the stage, I want to do everything by myself. If it is a safe experience, like doing the laces, you could say like this. It looks like it's very important to you to do the laces by yourself. This will serve as an encouragement and will build child's confidence and esteem. If it is a risky or dangerous one, like using a knife or an iron, this tool can become an excellent way to first of all validate what they want, to be independent, and then this tool will allow you to move to setting the boundaries and explaining why it is a no. For example, it sounds like you want to try out new things that adults do. And it sounds like it is very important for you to try how to iron. But I will have to say a no to this, because irons could be very dangerous. They are hot, you can burn yourself. What we can do right now is either make one safe iron from Lego, or choose something that looks like an iron and we can pretend and play the game with it.
Talking hand. Let's get started with the next tool. When somebody grabs something from you, you have a natural instinct to grab it back. But grabbing something back is unkind and impolite. We call it a fighting hand. Also, you send a message with your body language. Give it back to me or else. There is by far more powerful and kinder way to request something back, and we call this a talking hand. A talking hand is a very powerful communication strategy that allows the kids to be polite, kind, and at the same time assertive. This is how it works. You have to teach your child to use their palm, ask them to open it, and use their finger, point it back into the hand and say, please, give it back, or please, put it back into my hand. This is the way how you can teach your kids to be kind to each other. One very important tip over here, don't get too discouraged if after trying it once you don't see immediate impact. This tool requires reinforcement. I typically have seen the kids and the parents getting started to utilize this tool on full capacity after approximately 2 to 4 weeks. Just be consistent and continue reinforcing this message to your kids, and you will see magical power of using this tool.
There are 2 applications for this tool, for the grabber and the grabbee. I'm not even sure if this word exists, but basically it's for the child who grabs and the child who loses things from his hands. First application. This tool is great for shy kids or those who don't know yet how to assert themselves. When they're at home or in the playground or at school with siblings or other kids, it works when they are around somebody who shows the signs of bossiness or who is highly dominant or aggressive in the place and grabs the things from kids' hand without their permission. And the second application is for the kids who could be the bossy or the dominant ones. When somebody else grabs things from them, they turn to having aggressive attitude and grab stuff back with force. In short, if you want to teach your child to handle situations that involve any sort of grabbing things or taking things with force or without permission, this tool is for you. You can also use this tool as a parent. If the child grabs something from your hands, like a phone, remote control, or something else, when he takes something without your permission, here you can combine talking hands and the serious voice to set the boundary in a kind but firm way.
Helping words is our next strategy to unpack. In the previous video, we have learned that our communication consists of 3 elements. 10% of our communication is about our words, the choice of our words. And the words could either be helping words or fighting words. And if you as a parent know the difference, you can teach your kids about exactly the same. Because when you do, you give them a beautiful gift that they will carry for the rest of their lives. The gift of allowing the children to be mindful and present in the moments when they're very angry and frustrated, mindful to choose the right words that are not going to be mean or hurt other people. And remind you, the words do matter. Every single word is energy. And kids, when they're still very little, especially between 0 to 6 years old, they absorb all the energy like sponges. So you as a parent, you want to ensure that they get to absorb the most positive energy they could out there. How to use this tool? You can explain to your kids that when they feel angry or mad, they very often will default to using fighting words. Fighting words hurt other people. And when you hurt other people, you start behaving mean. You can also teach your kids that it's okay to feel angry, it's okay to feel mad, but it's not okay to be mean. And this is where the helping words will become your friends. So for example, if you hear your child saying, "Go away," it actually will be a signal for you that they're using fighting words. They don't know any other ways to express it. What they're trying to say is, "I want to be alone," or "Please leave me alone." And this is where you can step in and help them to know how to phrase it differently. You can say something like this: "Oops, I'm hearing fighting words, so let's redo it again using helping words." This piece that I just added up in the sentence is also very important and very powerful. "Let's redo it again." It's teaching your kids that there is no mistake in their life. It's just only learnings and opportunities to do things differently. I will repeat the whole structure one more time. "Oops, I'm hearing fighting words. Let's redo it again using helping words." Some other examples where you can use this strategy with your kids could be: how do you feel when you're using fighting words? How do you feel when somebody is using helping words with you? If you ask these 2 questions, you allow your child to reflect on what they have just experienced from other person, what they have just experienced themselves when they have been using fighting words, and expands their awareness and how it makes themselves feel and other people when the fighting and helping words really happen.
If you notice that your child is using language that is mean, rude, and it hurts people when they're feeling angry, you will find this tool very effective. You will need to train yourself to see the difference between what you see your child doing and what the child is actually trying to communicate. Here's what I mean by this. You ask your child to switch off the TV, and the child, sitting on the sofa, starts yelling, "I hate you!" What you as a parent might see in this behavior: "Oh, he's so disrespectful. He needs to stop saying these harsh things to me." Maybe no TV for him as a punishment that will teach him a lesson. What is really being communicated in this behavior? I feel incredibly angry at you. You just asked me to stop doing something I really enjoy. You hurt me and I will hurt you back. I need skill building when it comes to my anger management. The purpose of saying hate is to hurt you back. Because you just did or said something as a parent that hurts the child and they want to hurt you back. What you need to do in this situation is to explain that the word hate hurts people. I know, sometimes you might feel like you hate me when I ask you to switch off the TV and go to bed, especially when you were watching your favorite program. The word hate is a fighting word and it hurts me. Can you use your helping word instead to tell me how you feel? And here's a second scenario, an example. The behavior that you might be seeing is following. The child says, I don't want to do my homework, leave me alone, and shuts the door to the room. What you as a parent might be thinking in this moment, not again, she's so lazy and she only wants to do the things that she likes. What is really being communicated here is this. Take the child's perspective. Take a look at the situation through her lenses. The words, leave me alone and I don't want to do the homework, are just the codes, the signals that will tell you exactly how the child really feels. What they're sending you a message is that they are looking for connection. They want to feel safe. And if the child says, I don't want to do my homework, they might actually mean, I feel unsure of myself. I don't think I can do it right. I'm afraid I will fail again.
Let's unpack the next series of communication and emotional strategies for your kids. Talk and face and talk and voice, serious voice and serious face, fighting voice and fighting face. These tools are extremely powerful because they teach your kids two very important aspects. First, they will be learning how they can continue feeling mad and angry, but at the same time remain calm, positive, and helpful without being mean. And second aspect is when they can stand up for themselves and be assertive. These tools are my favorites, and they're extremely important, and here's the reason why. You see, our communication is not that simple. It consists of three elements. Element 1 is our words, and it accounts for 10% of our actual communication. 30% of it is about our tone of voice, how we say what we say. 60% is about our body language, our face and the actual body movements. So you see, 90% of what we and how we communicate actually has nothing to do with our words. These are non-verbal clues. So if you're teaching your child early on, you're giving a very special gift for them to be able to become aware of how they feel and what they say in the moments, and also be able to read other people's body languages and signs. A lot of kids, well, technically speaking, a lot of adults don't really know how to accurately read someone's body language and the voice. Very often, you might perceive somebody being moody or grumpy or angry, while in fact they might be simply tired. So being able to accurately assess and identify what the person is feeling is going to be extremely helpful for your kids. A second way of using these tools is about creating assertiveness. Have you ever noticed your child using relaxed and calm body and talking voice to request another child or a sibling to stop doing something they didn't like, and that other child did not respect and continued doing it? These are the moments where the talking voice and talking face should turn into the seriousness without being mean. Let's take an example. Let's say your child is being pinched by another one, and your child has been using the talking voice to say, stop it, I don't like it and I'm being hurt. Usually the situation can go two ways. If the child doesn't stop and doesn't respect the request, your child might go into the fighting mode, use the fighting voice and the fighting face and the words, and say something like this: stop it, I told you to stop it. Or the second possible scenario could be that your child will just step aside and do nothing else. This is exactly where you can step in as a parent to introduce serious voice and serious face and explain to your child that you can say something that is very important to you using your voice and the face. This is how you can teach your child to use a serious voice and a face to get another kid to stop pinching him. First attempt, stop pinching me, please. The second attempt, I'm asking you nicely to stop pinching me. The third attempt, I have asked you twice nicely to stop pinching me. Please, I'm going to use my serious voice and ask you again to stop doing it. And the fourth attempt, I've asked you 3 times nicely to stop doing it. I don't like it. Am I going to have to call the parents? Parents can use this communication strategy to assert themselves effectively with their own kids. For example, if your kids love watching cartoons and have difficulties to switch the TV off when it's time to go to bed, just like my son, they will probably be using their fighting voice. No, I don't want to. I want to watch the TV for another 5 minutes. When I hear that from my son, I usually go like this. Oops, Tim, I hear a fighting voice. Try using your talking voice instead. Okay, Mom, I want to watch another 5 minutes. Thank you for saying what you want using your talking voice. I know, watching cartoons is really nice, and I can imagine myself doing it for a very long time. But it's time to go to bed right now. I want to watch more. Timothy, I'm going to use my serious voice right now and ask you nicely again to switch the TV off. Okay, Mom? Tell, do not yell. Very often, people, kids and adults too, do not hear when they're using their fighting voice, which is why it is so important to learn how to have patience, tolerance, and do not react when somebody is yelling at you. What you need and what your kids need at that moment is the awareness. Somebody needs to bring to their insight that they're using their fighting voice. Very often, when kids are in the middle of the play, they get too excited and carried away about what they're doing, which is why they forget about using the talking voice. They start shouting, they start screaming and yelling. If you hear your children doing something like this, bring their awareness and help them to practice the talking voice. Here is an example. In the middle of the game, it's my turn. You're not supposed to be touching it. You take the green cups and I'm going to take the blue ones. I'm going to do it my way. If you notice your child using a fighting voice in a scenario like this, you can say, oops, I'm hearing a fighting voice. How can you say the same thing using your talking voice? Or can you say the same thing using your talking voice instead?
The application of talking, serious, and fighting face and voice could be so diverse. You will also notice that this tool could be used a lot in the combination with other tools like helping words and talking hand. I will share some of my thoughts here, but these ideas are not limited. You might find your own instances and situations where this tool will do the wonders. I would love to hear about those situations. Please share them in the community page. Here we go. You can use these tools when the child yells at the parents and others. You shout at the child and you cannot control your emotions. When the child is showing the signs of bossiness. If there is any aggressive or violent attitude, you have 2 or more kids and you notice sibling rivalry. And simply when the child is acting mean, rude, or disrespectful. And the serious voice specifically will be effective if you want your child to stand up for himself. If your child is too shy or being pushed by other kids. And also when you want your child to learn how to respond to the aggressive and violent attitude from other kids.